Seems to be something a little weird going on here. What's going on? We got seems to be good. Something a little weird going on here. What's going on? We got seems to be we're all good to go. Welcome to the nap. This is the pre-show where we do some debugging. That's like I just needed to do now. And we usually show a couple of videos before we actually get into the show, where we start with the intro at half past the hour. Now, if you were watching the show yesterday, as you know, their house decided to shut down early. Uh, each of the each of the party leaders made a statement regarding the tragedy out in BC, and then they shut down the house. So yeah, yesterday was mostly just pre-show, the preamble, and then nada. And then we shut down. So here we are back. We'll just kind of pick up where we left off yesterday, of course, with some additional stuff. So first off, what we like to do is we like to go into um, a older intro from November 4th this time. So let's go ahead and play that.
Tomorrow's budget will empower Canadians because this is your country and we decide what comes next.
Spencer talks like the government's money belongs to him, and they call these taxes imaginary. They aren't imaginary when you're...
If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth.
Yesterday from the Prime Minister really freaked these Conservatives out.
Now, as usual at this part here in the intros, because all the intros are sort of the same except for the beginning, which usually has something in there from the House from the prior week or from the prior day. And then most people don't watch to the very end, where there's always a bit of an Easter egg, which is usually just some additional content that's put in. And that's where we're going to slide to now. I just get into this. There we go. Let's move over here.
Out of control spending on consultants. Last year alone, over $20 billion on well-connected liberal insiders getting contracts. And this year, I think the number said that it's going to go as high as $25 billion. Why won't they put Canadians first? Instead of asking young people to make sacrifices, why won't they cut out their well-connected friends, put Canadians first, and deliver a budget that Canadians can actually afford?
Madam Speaker, it's impressive the Liberals are actually recognizing Christmas. Canadians are being asked to pull the wagon through the mud while Liberal cronies ride comfortably on top. The government isn't worried about families lining up at food banks. They're too busy lining the pockets of insiders. They're not bothered with cutting home prices. They're too focused on cutting checks to bumbling bureaucrats. They don't care about rising debt and inflationary deficits so long as the money keeps flowing to the Liberal elites. When will this Prime Minister stop using tax dollars to reward his friend?
Tomorrow's budget will empower Canadians because this is your country and we decide. Tomorrow's budget will empower Canadians.
Yeah, we decide what comes next. Well, typically at this point, I would usually go into some more of the videos that I've actually made. But at this point here, I think it's important probably to play this other video here. Nico Lagan posted on X. Canada's sitting on a powder keg with over 1 million people currently living here on expired visas and 4 million more permits set to expire by year end. The government's plan for enforcement is nothing. So the minister, Mark Miller, admits the government just expects people to leave voluntarily. Meanwhile, CBSA is only removing 1% of those with expired visas, and taxpayers are footed with a $900 million healthcare bill for asylum seekers in just 1 year. And actually, I just saw a report there come out today that was posted by a member of parliament saying it's more like $1.3 billion per year. So even that, and that was from the 2nd of February, and here we are just, 10 days later, and the figure is up by 400 million. Okay, so let's just watch this video, and then if it carries on into the 15-minute countdown, that will come up as well, and then we will be back and we'll swap into another video until we get ready to start the show at 1:30.
How will you ensure that a person whose visa has expired will leave?
There are many ways that people leave the country, Tom. The vast majority leave voluntarily, and that's what's expected.
It's estimated that right now over 1 million people are living in Canada illegally, meaning that their visa, their temporary visa, has expired, and that by the end of this year, up to 4 million permits, temporary permits, so call it temporary workers, international students, will have expired since 2025. And considering what's going on in the US right now, it's hard not to ask that question, right? Because I'm going to share some numbers today that are very problematic when you start to see how many people actually, what is our enforcement policy in Canada? How many people actually leave when they're supposed to leave? Yeah. So that's the question I have for the audience. Do you believe that Canada should establish an ICE department just like the US has? By the end of today, I think you'll have an opinion.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good question. I don't think we necessarily need to just copy and paste the American version. There's some things that I don't necessarily wouldn't necessarily want them to do up here, but should there be a dedicated agency that's job is to go around and get rid of or deport people who are here illegally? Yeah, I don't have an issue with it.
Well, let's, before we get, before you share your opinion, how about we actually look at the numbers? Because the numbers, man, are problematic to say the least. So so I found a video. This is when I like to refer to mainstream media videos because the numbers that they use are extremely problematic. So if those numbers that they use are that bad, imagine how bad the real numbers are. Listen to this.
9 million people living in Canada on temporary resident, worker, or visitor extension permits have visas that expired last year or they will expire this year, and not including student visas. This according to new data from Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada. One Edmonton immigration lawyer says he's never seen so many people desperate for immigration help.
I have tissue paper in my office because you don't know the tears that people will, genuine tears, where people will cry and tell me the harshest stories, okay? And this is real life. These people are going to pay a heavy price.
Only a fraction of the 2.9 million people living here will get permanent residency. Canada's admissions target was 395,000 in 2025. The Canadian government expects the rest of them to leave. Shawar, who's been doing immigration law for nearly 2 decades, says that's not going to happen.
So we may be facing a situation like we have in the States, where we have ICE officers grabbing people in the US, we'll have CBSA officers grabbing people here. Whether or not that's a good look for Canada is something we have to look at as a nation and think about.
Data from Canada Border Services.
Before we continue the video, have you noticed that it's like they're making us the bad guys? Like, this is not a good look for Canada. Okay, but why the fuck are they still here? Like, how is it if your visa's expired, you're not supposed to be here anymore, right?
Yeah.
So I love how all those videos, and that's again why I want to use mainstream media to kind of show the narrative that they're pushing. Like, they're making it sound like we are at fault here for not providing
Well, of course they are, because mainstream media carries water for the liberals, and they have to. Right? They have to carry water because they're being paid by liberals 27 to 30 grand per employee per year. Unless, of course, you're CBC, then you're fully funded by the grace of the government. Because would this liberal government fall and have another different government of not left-leaning proportions, well, then they'd probably be completely defunded. Unless, of course, the next government comes in and says, hey, you know what? This is a pretty handy propaganda machine you guys have handed us over. Maybe we won't dismantle it. Who knows? Right? We just don't know what will happen after the election. But in the meantime, we got to hang on to what we can. Well, let's just go straight into some more justice stuff because of, well, who's in charge of justice? Oh, that would be Gun Grab Gary. So let's watch some older video on Gary here.
I understand the Liberals want to protect the Liberal minister. I'm not here for that. I'm here for answers. Let's keep going here. Minister, 600 foreign nationals were set to be deported. 70% of them committed violent crimes, including sex assaults. Where are they?
Thank you, Mr. Caputo. Thank you for that question. As you're aware, the Canada Border Services Agency is tasked with removals of those who are deemed to be
Minister, I'm sorry, we don't need a preamble. We just need an answer. Where are the 600 people who were set to be deported? Maybe I'll ask this way. Do you know where they are? Yes or no?
Mr. Chair, if I may respond to this question in whole. So, as you're aware, the CBSA is tasked with the removal of those who are inadmissible to Canada. In this particular case, we have been ensuring that removals have been taking place at an unprecedented rate.
I asked about the 600 people, Minister. I didn't ask about removals at an unprecedented rate. Do you know where they are? Yes or no?
Well, there is a set of
I'll take that as a no, Minister. Let's move on.
Let's be clear, Mr. Caputo. There are a number of individuals who are in the process of being removed. So of the 600 you talk about, there is a breakdown, and I'd like to invite Gorman to
You are the
respond to
minister.
this.
You are the expert. The Globe and Mail reported 600 people are missing. You're the minister. You're expected to know this. The buck stops with you. We have 6 minutes. You don't know. Let's move on. You promised 1,000 new border officers for the CBSA. How many have been hired?
So right now, as you're aware, we are in the process of ensuring that the 1,000 new CBSA officers will be trained appropriately.
Again, Minister, you're answering questions I'm not asking. I asked how many were hired. Simple number.
Mr. Caputo, I'm not here for your TikTok videos, okay? Like I'm here to.
No, and Minister, I'm here for Canadians.
I'm here to answer questions.
Mr. Minister, let's just these conversations are important, but they need to be understandable.
I'll commence. First of all, TikTok is banned in Canada. Second, I don't have an account. I'm here for Canadians. I'm here for answers. You can obfuscate. I will continue to press forward. RCMP didn't know how many of the 1,000 officers that they promised were hired. Just a number. How many?
So I will invite the RCMP
No,
Commissioner
I want to hear it from you,
answer
Minister.
this
From
question.
you, Minister.
Mr. Caputo, I'm not responsible for hiring of the officers.
You're not. I beg your pardon. You are the minister.
I'm sorry. This is not useful because it is obviously impossible for anyone
Mr.
listening
Chair, I'll
to
be very clear. I'm asking the minister these questions. The buck stops with him. I'm not asking for him to defer to anybody. If he doesn't know the answer, just say it. Just the other day on the on a recording, he said, "Don't ask me to explain the logic to you." He was perfectly capable of saying it then. He's capable of saying it now. Minister, do you know the number of the 1,000 promised RCMP officers? Yes or no?
Speaker, the RCMP are preparing to hire 1,000, including ensuring that training facilities at depot are equipped, because this will be solely for federal policing, and the work at depot to ensure that the right modules, the right level of training is in place is currently being prepared, and as soon as they're able to recruit, they will be hired and they will be on our streets.
Okay, that is a 0, I take it then, because you wouldn't give us a number. Now, Mr., you said in leaked audio that the gun buyback wouldn't work. Do you stand by that?
That is not what I said, Mr. Caputo.
Well, you could have fooled me, Minister. You actually said, quote, don't ask me to explain the logic to you. You talked about how it's only been 3 weeks on the job. I'm not an expert on this, right? I'm not an expert. The tone that you said was that this wouldn't work, it was being done for politics. Do you stand by that, yes or no?
That is not correct.
Do you believe that the buyback will work?
The buyback is right now being implemented. There's a pilot right now in Cape Breton.
That is not what I asked.
Mr. Chair, I would like I think the fair way to do this is that I get adequate time to respond to questions posed. So if I may, the buyback program is currently being implemented. There's a pilot right now in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. From all accounts, the registration appears to be going well. We are ironing out any logistical issues that may arise.
Okay. That registration,
the program will be expanded
let's talk
across
about that.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
It-
To add, Mr. Chair, that TikTok is not banned in Canada. It's available on the app stores. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I will reclaim my time, Canadians' time, when the minister is going on and on for speaking. I understand the Liberals want to protect the Liberal minister. I'm not here for that. I'm here for answers. Let's keep going here. You spoke about Cape Breton Island. Now, there is a chief who is the brother-in-law to a Liberal MP on Cape Breton Island. Did you speak with that chief in respect of this buyback? Just a yes or no, please.
Speaker, as you know, the Mass Casualty Commission report...
That's not what I asked, Minister. I asked whether you spoke with a chief.
Mr. Chair, I would like the opportunity to respond. The Mass Casualty Commission report indicated that governments need to do everything in their powers to ensure
I asked whether you
Mr. Caputo, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, he doesn't get to talk out the clock. He has to answer. I asked whether he spoke with the chief, Chair. That's it. He doesn't get to talk about turkey basters or whatever we're going to talk about here. He has to speak about the questions he's given, and I won't stand for this as somebody representing Canadians to let him talk out the clock. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Point
but
of
I won't
order.
do that.
Okay, thank you. You have another 10 seconds, Mr. Caputo.
Did you speak with that chief, yes or no?
Mr. Chair, the Mass Casualty Commission report in Nova Scotia indicated that governments need to do everything in their powers to get assault style.
You spoke with a Liberal insider.
That's it. Thank you so much for the first.
Thank you. Minister, I appreciate you talking about the rise in hate in Canada and the meetings that you said.
As you can see, the timer on my face has started, so that's our countdown to the start of the show. Please keep enjoying the video.
You've had with synagogues and mosque communities. Are you aware that 123 churches have been burned, vandalized, or desecrated in the last 4 years in Canada?
Mr. Lloyd, I am aware that a number of places of worship, including churches, have been vandalized, yes.
Have you met with any of those congregations, Minister?
I have not met with those specific congregations, but I have met with many members of different church and faith groups.
You haven't met with any of the members of the congregations in Canada, churches that have been subject to hate crimes over the last 4 years in this country?
I have not, no.
Is it because hate crimes against Christians aren't a priority for this government, Minister?
That's absolutely incorrect.
Well, you said you met with synagogues and mosques, which I do appreciate. Those communities need your support, Minister, but Christian communities also need your support. Why have you not met with any of those communities, Minister?
Well, I can tell you that I meet with faith leaders. I meet with Christian leaders across Canada all the time.
Thank you.
I've met with...
I'm going to move on to the next question. There have been allegations made that there was an Antifa member who threw smoke bombs into a church service in Montreal this past summer. The allegations are that they're a government employee that work on a military base outside of Montreal. Are you aware of these allegations, and are they being investigated?
Allegations such as that are investigated by the police of jurisdiction, so that in this case it would be the City of Montreal Police.
Considering that this is a potential terrorism case, does this concern you? Are you at all concerned about potentially a government employee being a member of an organization like Antifa and committing a crime like throwing smoke bombs in a church service?
I'm concerned at every incidence of hate at any place, including churches, and certainly the allegation involves government employees. That makes me more concerned.
Minister, prominent members of your caucus have called for the banning of the SKS. These are hunting rifles that are used by Indigenous people and many others. Can you confirm to this committee, yes or no, is your government planning on banning the SKS?
No, but what I can say is that the expert panel is tasked to come up with recommendations.
To clarify, are you saying no, we can't confirm, or no, you are not banning the SKS?
No, we're not.
Okay. Minister, only a third of the $750 million that you're planning on spending on this gun confiscation is for compensating firearms owners. This number is estimated to be well short of the amount that's needed. If you continue on and compensate all these firearm owners, it's going to be well over $1 billion. How can you justify that expense when we've been told by the Customs and Immigration Union that we only have 300 CBSA officers who are at the borders and removing potentially violent criminals from Canada? How can you justify that expense?
I think that number is incorrect with respect to CBSA, and I can ask Ms. O'Gorman if you wish to clarify.
I'll move on to the next question. Thank you, Minister. Minister, trappers, foresters, biologists, Ms. O'Gorman, if you could provide that in writing to this committee at a later time, I'd really appreciate that. Thank you. Trappers, foresters, biologists, and other wilderness workers require protection from dangerous animals like cougars and bears. Minister, do you believe that these individuals should be able to carry handguns for their personal protection?
They should be able to carry the right type of equipment to do their job that is in line with Canadian law.
So these professionals, they do have to carry a lot of equipment into the wilderness. They can't just carry a rifle. It can be very heavy with all their other equipment. A sidearm is necessary for their safety. Do you support their right to do this?
I support their right to be equipped with the right type of tools that they need to do their job effectively and safely in line with Canadian law.
Does that include a handgun when necessary?
Again, I will repeat what I said, Mr. Lloyd.
Are you aware of what an authorization to carry is, Minister?
Yes, I am.
Are you aware what it takes to get an authorization to carry in Canada?
Yes, I am.
What is required to get an authorization to carry?
What will be required is a course that will ensure that they're properly trained in carrying the said type of firearm.
Yes, a proof of proficiency test. I'm pleased that you understand that, Minister. Minister, since your government brought in the handgun freeze, it's now become impossible for anyone to transfer or purchase a handgun. So how do you expect people to pass a proficiency test if they can never get access to a handgun?
Well, listen, these... As you're aware, this legislation was brought in as part of Bill C-21 and previously through a number of orders and councils. To date, we believe that the program is working well.
These members cannot get their proficiency test because of C-21. You're asking these people to go on their trap lines, to go into the forest without the proper equipment that they need. Do you commit to fixing this, Minister? Because you're putting these people's lives at risk. Because they can't access handguns because your government, in a reckless ideological decision, completely banned the transfer of handguns. So people cannot get their authorizations to carry. They cannot get their proficiency tests. What are you going to do to fix this, Minister?
Unfortunately, the time is over.
I just want to pick up on what the last question was, because there seems to be a bit of a contradiction. So you have mentioned to my colleague that you would not ban the SKS. However, it's still under review whether you would ban the purchase and sale of the SKS. Can you please clarify?
Sure. At this point, there is no plan to ban the SKS. Okay, there's no, but however,
you're enjoying the pre-show. As you can see by the countdown, we're just over 7 minutes away from start of the show.
The expert panel, there is an expert panel, as you're aware, as part of Bill C-21 that will, that if they do recommend movement on it, then we will make.
Okay, so this isn't a permanent promise. This is just a for now promise that we're not banning the SKS for now.
The commitment that I've made is that there's 2,500 prohibited firearms as part of the 3 sets of orders in council that are the subject of the buyback program. So those will...
Don't know, please just tell us, please don't ask the officials. Since the Liberal government took power, how much is violent crime up, sir?
Well, I can assure the member that crime overall is generally on the downward trend across Canada.
It's, I'll help you. It's 55%. Again, just a number. What are homicides up since the Liberal government took power?
In the city of Toronto, it's down 51% from this time last year.
That's not what I asked, sir. I asked how much homicides are up. 29% since your government took power. What about sexual assaults? What are they up since your government took power? Just a number, please.
Mr. Caputo, this is not a test. Okay, so let me just suggest that overall, general trend of crime has been going down. Having said that, I think there's a lot of work that we need to do. There are areas that are of concern, and as a government, we're bringing forward legislation to strengthen issues
with respect,
such as bail.
Minister, I asked for numbers. Okay, you are the minister, so with all due respect, we can ask these questions on behalf of Canadians and do it in good faith. What's extortion up since your government took power? Just a number, please.
Again, let me just say that overall, there's some type of crimes that are on the uptick.
330%, Minister. Auto theft. What is that up since your government took power? Just a number, please.
It's down 19% nationwide. It's down 25% in Ontario and 22% in Quebec.
And it's up 25.33% since your government took power. What about hate crimes? MP Lloyd talked to you about that. What are they up since your government took power? Just a number, please.
Hate crime has, since particularly October 7th of 2023, it's been up significantly.
258% in the last 10 years. And you still haven't met with some of the congregations. How about gun crime? Not the last year, the last 10 years. What is it up, Minister? Just a number, please.
Well, let me suggest, Mr. Caputo, if you're serious about ensuring the safety and security of Canadians and addressing issues of gun crimes.
That's not what I asked,
We need to have a holistic approach.
Monsieur Caputo, je vais le dire en français cette fois-ci.
With all due respect, Minister, I prosecuted gun crimes on a number of occasions. Please, I understand the impacts of gun crimes. I've looked victims in the eye. Victims who I think will want to know that the minister knows that gun crime has soared 130% since Liberals took office. How about
Mr. Caputo,
no, I'm asking the question here, Minister. This is my time on behalf of Canadians to ask questions, sir. How about in Toronto? Total violent crime. How much is it up since 2015?
Mr. Caputo, I, in my previous role, unfortunately have had to bury a number of young people who lost their lives to gun violence. There isn't a person in this room that will say that gun violence of any form is acceptable. What we need to do here in this parliament and this committee and across party lines is to have a mature conversation about the impacts of guns.
And I am happy
without
to do
politicizing
that,
it.
Minister,
And without
we have very limited time. I have one more question for you. Is Toronto safe?
Mr. Caputo, I represent Scarborough, Guildwood, Rouge Park. It is a very safe community. Around the city of Toronto, it is safe. There are incidents that have happened that may appear to make it unsafe, but I can tell you from the Toronto Police Service, homicides are down 51% from last year. Shooting and firearms discharge are down 40% from this time last year. Overall, for example, auto theft are down above 22%.
Mr. Au does need some time. Thank you.
30 seconds, MP Au.
Minister, as the public safety minister, are you aware of the diversion of so-called safe supply drugs to the black market in BC?
There are issues that are happening in BC, and a lot of it falls under the jurisdiction of the province, Mr. Au.
Do you know the magnitude of the problem? Do you know how much money flowed into the hands of the criminals?
Mr. Au, the issues around illegal drugs.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but time is up.
Minister, I want to continue with my question. So do you know the magnitude of the problem that the safer supply drugs are being resold?
Believing the Liberals are helping Canadians is as ridiculous as believing the budget will balance itself.
Simple answer, move on, man, move on, That's, honestly.
Over 2 million people a month to the food banks. I guess they should just move on from that. If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth.
Speech yesterday from the Prime Minister really freaked these Conservatives out because they saw the ambition in that speech. And not only did they see it in that speech today, as the Prime Minister stood with the Premier investing in new nuclear to ensure the jobs of today and the future, they know that the youth...
The only thing that's revolting are those answers.
Speaker, we will take no lessons from these Conservatives. Trust me on that.
The Minister didn't write the Prime Minister's speech yesterday because it wouldn't have bored and depressed to tears.
It's really hard to follow, isn't it, Mr. Speaker?
All of those poor students stuck in that room. There he spoke about how they would have to sacrifice more and that it would take time to reverse all of the misery that has built up over the last 10 years. Mr. Speaker, young people want to have homes. They want to have jobs. They want to have hope. They want a budget that is affordable so they can have a life that is affordable. Will the Prime Minister introduce that budget so that Canadians can restore the promise of their country?
And we decide what comes next.
Know that this government has their back and we will continue to do this. We move forward. There's going to be a powerful statement for the young people of Canada.
Deficits are driving inflation. The more Liberals spend, the more it costs Canadians at the grocery store. 25% of Canadians are using food banks because they can't afford to eat. So when will the Prime Minister finally get his inflationary deficits under control so Canadians can put food on the table?
Mr. Speaker, Conservative members pretend to care about food insecurity, but then they call feeding children garbage.
Mr. Speaker, what's garbage was that answer.
Did the Prime Minister see the ad before it went out?
Hey, of course there are too many people living in poverty in Canada, but there are significant initiatives being put in place by this government.
Being serious means being honest.
Mr. Speaker, the grand reveal has been made.
Canada's economy is in fact growing, Mr. Speaker.
Move on, man, move on.
Sets us up well for the new world order.
I have a simple answer. Move on, man. Move on, That's, honestly, change what you be current. I think you'll be so much.
Liberals keep telling Canadians that they've never had it so good. Well, not only has food inflation doubled since this Prime Minister took office, it's now twice as high in Canada as it is in the United States. It's driving over 2 million people a month to the food banks. I guess they should just move on from that.
I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.
He did it to win it. You ain't gonna make it.
Bye-bye, trailer.
Go.
Fuck!
That right there is pretty well what we would expect from the Liberal government. It's kind of like a show of what's happening in Canada when the Liberals just decide to do what they want, ignore the rules of the road, and, in the end, they'll take us all down the cliff with them. Right. Hey, welcome. Welcome to the nap, the no answer period, where we cover the question period prefaced by a review of the far left evil that has beset our land and the events that surround it. The nap, the no answer period, precedes question period by 45 minutes, and we'll cover the lower house until the government decides to stop showing up, like they did yesterday. Well, they showed up, but then they quit early for the day. You know what? I redone the intro video with today's date, and I didn't load it up properly for the intro. So it doesn't matter anyway. It's not, I usually load all those intros up separately on a playlist, but didn't bother for today because it's the same intro as for the day before because question period did not sit yesterday. So when we cover question period, we also keep score of the lies, the freebie questions from liberals to liberals, the no answers. Of course, we list those as naps. And every once in a while, you do get an answer. Um, Usually they answer the bloc or they answer the NDP, but they never answer the conservatives because those questions are too difficult for them to answer because it would usually mean that they have to admit that they've done something incorrectly. Hardly ever do they really ever answer a question. And of course, how we track each of those questions, what we consider a lie, well, that's all in the description below. We're streaming on 3 platforms, Rumble, X, and YouTube. I'd like to thank all my followers and subscribers for doing so. I really appreciate you people. We've had a few extra subscribers this week. This really helps to grow the channel. Thumbs up, follow, and share as well. The chat is up, so please feel free to ask anything. And comments drive the algorithm when I'm not driving it down with my forbidden words. Thank you all who've recently subscribed. I found something new today. I was going through the YouTube subscriber list, and it doesn't list all the subscribers. In fact, some people that don't have a public profile, I guess, can just not have the fact that they have subscribed show up, which I don't really care. It's just I didn't know that. That's rather interesting. Didn't know there was that setting in there. Anyways, let's get on with the show. So, of course, here we are at Parliament, where a bunch of meetings have already been adjourned, which means that they were in progress. Who's in camera right now? The budget on committee budgets of the liaison committee. Wonderful. And all these other committees that have not started for today. And of course, the House is in progress. And of course, we have our latest video up, which has been getting a lot of views. Thank you all for those of you who've actually watched it, which of course was advertised at the end of the intro. That Francois Philippe Champagne is a condescending see you next Tuesday. And of course, we're on Rumble, YouTube, and we're also on X, as you saw before. And then, of course, every day, if you want to find out what's going on in Parliament, well, you just go over here to the House Publications and you bring up the House publication for the day, order paper, and notice paper. This is put together by Stephen McKinnon and his staff, as he is the House leader. And all the questions that are asked that are expecting an answer, usually staffed throughout the day, outside the question period, and in committees. So if you want to find out if any MP out there has asked a question about what you are concerned as a Canadian citizen, this is the place to go. And, of course, you can ask your MP, but remember, your MPs are pretty busy. So sometimes it helps just to do some easy research. And of course, word search. It's very simple. You bring it up, do a word search. Hey, look, there's my stuff that I was interested in. Oh, well, they're not asking all the questions that I want. So then you can refine your questions even more. Of course, I touched on this during the pre-show. We always like to mention this. QCJO, believe the mainstream media should be wearing armbands that say QCJO on them to identify them as being funded by the Liberal government. 27 to 30 grand per employee who get these tax credits. That's why you don't really get much news on the mainstream media. And of course, tomorrow morning, join us at 9 o'clock for Blazing Cat Fur Fridays, where we do a cool read-through of Blazing Cat Fur over the GTA area. He's been running his website for 20 years, and he's kind enough to host me every Friday morning at 9. The rest of the week, by the way, we just do second breakfast at 9 o'clock. You can join us then. Well, let's just watch this here for a sec without comment. Maybe without the music. Okay, so I know what they're inferring, but um, women's hands are like this, right? Male's hand, four fingers shorter, probably through genetic manipulation over years as males were hunter-gatherers and we're more apt to lose digits because we do more manual stuff. So I guess over time, males with longer pointer fingers started getting them ripped off, and males that had shorter ones tended not to, which means maybe they lived longer, maybe they procreated more, and that's why males tend to have probably a shorter middle finger. So I don't know. Unless, of course, you can surgically alter your finger like that. I don't know. I don't know. Not saying anything. Not saying anything at all. All right. Randy Hillier, former MPP from Ontario, who left politics at the time of the COVIDity stupidity. And he's always apt to tell most uncomfortable truths that are out there. And he's not afraid to say them. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he still has some of the court cases going through. I know the last one that came back in regards to the COVIDity stupidity, he won. That was good news. All right, so what's Randy saying here? 10 are dead in Tumbler Ridge, BC, direct result of government policy. Without Bill C4, Jesse Strang could have got proper care to end his confusion. Instead, he was pumped up with a cocktail of drugs and encouraged to live in a depraved fantasy world. The 338 federal MPs who unanimously passed C4 are accessories to murder, and there were 338 seats. Now there are 343. And so that's what Randy is posting there. And here's Jeff Evely, where he says oh yes, Jeff Evely. So a retired warrant officer, I believe he's the fella who walked across Canada to raise some money for the Freedom Convoy, I believe. And then, of course, everybody called him a racist veteran, right? And yes, by the way, and he's, of course, also challenging that that latest BS that his province was doing by banning people from being in the woods because, you know, the woods might spontaneously combust from the presence of human beings, which was the first time since kings ruled the UK, telling people that you're not allowed in the woods. And it was the first time within a Commonwealth that that had happened. And it happened in Canada. And it happened in Canada by a far left government. So he's like, he said he went into the bush and he made sure that they gave him a fine so that he could take it to court and push back on their BS. Good for him. So anyway, so he says, I took this photo of a sign that I saw in government office during my last trip to Ottawa. Note the use of knives to connote or else around the call to action. Protect trans kids. Our institutions have been captured by an extremist Marxist ideology that weaponizes kids against Western civilization. In plain terms, protect trans kids means protect our radicalization efforts and or protect taxpayer-funded mutilation and sterilization of kids. And let's have a look at this. Yeah, look, all these knives. The imagery is cannot be disputed. I don't know why you would have to create this kind of imagery to infer violence is necessary to protect your ideology, unless, of course, your ideology is that radical that it, you know, is fine with using violence because it has a different interpretation of violence, right? Well, the cultural Marxists, they have now included violence to mean hurtful words. If you use hurtful words against somebody, now they can consider that as violence, which allows them now to use violence against you. That's how their minds work, and that's basically what they are being taught by somebody. Somebody's teaching them this garbage. Now, this video has been circling around of Jess Van Rootseller. I'll just play a couple of seconds of this. So this video goes on for a bit. You could see his red streak here, across here. It's like maybe he had some lipstick on or something and wiped his hand across his mouth. It's quite his Joker moment, that's for sure. And then we go through here. It goes, here's Mario Naufal saying, Canadian mass shooters Roblox account featured mall shooting simulator. Players could fire into crowds at malls sharing name with a real Canadian location. Roblox has deleted the account and game. Again, it's not the games that perverted this person's mind because there's plenty of people all over the planet playing first-person shooter games, and they're not running around doing this stuff. So don't blame the games. Here's a piece by a Canadian prepper, and it's about 2 years prior to the shooting. Firearms were seized from the family home under provisions of Canadian Criminal Code, likely due to mental health or safety risks, he writes. The lawful owner of the firearms, the mother presumably petitioned for their return through the required legal process. The RCMP reviewed and returned the firearms roughly a month before the incident. When they try to come after firearms owners in the next few days, we need to hold them accountable. It's the RCMP that needs to be on trial, not law-abiding gun owners. This is the institutional pattern. Scramble people's brains with a cocktail of drugs, negligently enable them to commit crimes, and use their crimes to go after the law-abiding citizens. It's anarcho-tyranny. It's the term we are hearing more and more over the past year. And here we go from End Wokeness. Tumblr Ridge gunman Jesse Strang began to transition 6 years ago at 12 years old. 6 years ago, CBC Kids had aired this stuff here. We're not going to play that. I remember there was big controversy at the time. And they were like, what are we funding? Look at this. Why are we funding this? Why are they interfering with kids growing up as kids? Treating them like adults? Why are they sexualizing children? And this basically that's what that was, right? It was our tax money sexualizing children on the state broadcaster. So of course, they're fully bought into this, right? And of course, we have a prime minister whose adult child transitioned at Tavistock. I'm wondering how concerned he is about his offspring's mental stability. Here's Gen Xer. Boiling Frog Canada, edition 2026. Drop a frog in a boiling water, it jumps out. Heat the water slowly, it sits there smiling until it's dead. That's not a metaphor anymore. That's our country right now. While Mark Carney, the guy who went from Bank of Canada to Brookfield billionaire to prime minister, quietly builds epic screens and pushes legislation that conveniently protects decision makers from real conflict of interest scrutiny, ordinary Canadians are being slow cooked alive politely on schedule with a smile. Fact checked. Food Banks Canada Hunger Count 2025. 2.2 million food bank visits in one single month. March of 2025. Wow. Double what it was in 2019. 1 million more than what it was the year before in December of 2024. Double of what it was in 2019, he says there. All right, so up another 5.2% year over year. 33% are children. That's 712,000 kids visits a month. Imagine that. 33% are children. And of course, that's children that are going to be underfed during their developmental years, which will stunt them for the rest of their life. Another liberal success. And 19.4% of users have jobs. That's nearly 20% of the people using food banks have jobs and can't feed themselves in this liberal economy. Full-time jobs, still can't eat. A teenage cashier told me last week, this is just how it is now. Oh my goodness. The Stockholm syndrome is starting to set in. She works retail and still can't buy groceries without the food bank. This is in Canada where we're such a rich country. This is what it's come to. That only happens if you have criminal elite at the top starving everybody. These aren't edge cases, he writes. These are teachers, tradespeople, nurses, tech workers, mid-career professionals with good jobs who are now begging for overtime, side hustles, and second incomes, not to get ahead, but to keep their kids in hockey and put real food on the table. You can see a lot of kids having to drop out of hockey. Because who can afford the equipment or the just unless you're able to do it yourself, just the cost of shortening the skates. Vacations? Gone. Savings? Gone. And so will your pensions, by the way Carney's working at putting those into his catalytic fund. Breathing room? Gone. Meanwhile, the spending keeps ballooning, the debt keeps exploding, and people writing the rules never feel the heat because they already own the pot, the stove, and the entire damn kitchen. When you're insulated from consequences, well, inflation is transitionary. Ethics are optional. Your neighbor's kid going hungry is someone else's problem. The cruelest part, most voters still don't see it. They accept every new tax, every quiet carve out, every temporary sacrifice. They're told it's responsible, necessary for the greater good. The water keeps warming. By the time they realize who got protected, who got sacrificed, and who paid the bill, there's nowhere left to jump. That didn't happen overnight. It happened politely, incrementally. Photo ops, slogans, and elbows up. Cheers. That's how you boil the country. What a load for the toad, he writes. Good write-up. Now, getting back to the official record, gender identity disorder was classified as a mental disorder until 2013. The DSM, I don't know what the DSM is, named it the gender dysphoria. Same diagnosis, new framing. Serious questions. Why was the language changed? How much did cultural pressure influence that shift? Why did diagnosis rise sharply after? Are we allowed to debate this without being labeled? Medicine evolves, but so does politics. Which one drove the change? Well, like I've done in another video, that's part of the top 45 communist incursions into Western civilization that were still in effect when the wall came down in Berlin and the Soviet Union broke apart. But the intelligence apparatus and the means to destroy Western civilization from within were already underway. It just got taken over by the cultural Marxists because all the red diaper doper babies from the 60s had already done their damage and infiltrated the higher education system, which was now percolating down through all the teachers' colleges and training the teachers who were now in turn indoctrinating the children with this new cultural Marxist ideology. And the foot in the door for that was the climate change. And from there, it just expanded. Now, people think that what they're being taught in school is the truth without actually any real reference material. And they're not sticking to the 3 R's. Now they've included in there politics or gender politics. You know, like, why are you sexualizing kids in school? They should wait till high school, and there's actually a separate course for that. But now it's everywhere. Now here we have this stats here posted. I believe this is from Hanifa Bayat. And we look at home affordability in the 25 largest metropolitan areas in the US and Canada. And all of them on here are from the US except for 3 that are Canadian, and the 3 that are Canadian are in the top 5. And Canada has the top 2. Toronto and Vancouver. Now look here, the home price to income ratio in 2005 and then in 2015. So we saw this rise here in Toronto, a big one again in Vancouver, Vancouver, sometimes they called it. And then in Montreal, it was a very slow rise. And again, it's been a slow rise in Montreal as well. But Vancouver really didn't change much since 2015, and neither did Toronto. So it seems like most of the high crisis occurred during the conservative years. Yeah, interesting. 20-year population change, increased by 35%, increased by 44%. Charlotte, that's a pretty high number, 90%, but Montreal, 23%, which might account for why there was a lower ratio. Well, it's interesting. But overall, Canada's in the top 5. It's not a good stat to have. Here's the Wall Street apes. I literally can't believe this is real. He writes, the European Union just released official new guidelines stating members of ISIS can now be granted asylum and imported into Sweden. Why am I reading about Sweden when we're doing a preamble to question period? Now, because it seems that all the worst ideas that are happening in Europe seem to be repeated in Canada. So he says, no, seriously, read that again. I had to triple check this to make sure it was real. So the EUAA, the European Union Agency for Asylum, basically the organization that decides who gets to claim asylum within the borders of the European Union. Their new guidelines suggest granting asylum to ISIS affiliates in Sweden. Now, the wild part is that they're not talking about people who are currently in Sweden. No, their new guidelines say that ISIS members living in the Middle East now have a reasonable fear of persecution, basically saying that ISIS fighters may no longer be safe in the Middle East and therefore should be permitted to claim asylum and go to Sweden. Wow. And Mark Carney was talking about, hey, we should join the European Union. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. So here Bruce posts, police in India just arrested 11 individuals accused of issuing more than 100,000 fake university degrees in medicine, nursing, and engineering. 100,000. How many of these Indian scammers are in Canada and the US right now? Well, at least in Canada, we know that we don't have a fast track method for people in the sciences to become accredited. So it's probably not happening in Canada, but I don't know about the other departments. Engineering, nursing, not sure. Oh, yes. For those of you who think that digital ID sounds convenient, let me warn you what happened in India, writes Wide Awake Media. In India, the government linked people's food rations, pensions, and even hospital access to a digital ID system. Okay. Problem? Criminal networks learned how to hack and manipulate biometric data. When fingerprints didn't match or when hackers swapped someone's identity, people were locked out of survival. Entire families were denied food in just one state. At least 24 people starved to death after being cut off from rations. This is the real danger of digital ID. It's not about safety or protecting children, it's about control. Once everything you need to live, food, money, medicine, is tied to a single digital ID, all it takes is an error or a criminal to cut you off. Now, of course, all the gun owners had all the information doxed, apparently. Was it 1.2 million gun owners or 12 million? I don't know how many, but yeah, you can't trust the government with your information. They continually have breaches of information. And then, of course, the old age security fiasco going on right now, where the Liberal government decided that they needed to modernize the system, which I guess you need to if you're running a program that's from the 70s, even though it's still working. But then you allocate $1.3 billion to upgrade the system. And even after $1.3 billion, it still doesn't work properly. So then you go into cost overruns by $5 billion more, and still it doesn't work well. And then the people that you give it to who have to use it are giving you feedback saying this program's not working right. What's going on? And then you still ignore them. And then finally you have seniors who depended on OAS, part of their social contract after, doing their part in society and paying their taxes and living in Canada and providing to society and living here and being Canadian and being part of Canada. And You know, here I am in my old age. I'm cradle to grave. Here's my OAS. No, it's not coming. What? You mean it's not coming? Maybe next month. Oh, maybe the month after that. Maybe 9 months later, nothing's happening for some of these people. And initially, it started off in Parliament with, oh, it's only 10,000 people. You know, oh, wait, sorry, it's more than that. It's 10,000 per batch of 500,000 that they expect to have every year that are not getting it. Oh, wait, it's all the other people that migrated over. A lot of them had issues too. So now apparently we have 86,000 seniors. And what do the liberals do? Well, the first thing they do is say, well, come on, it's there's a new program. You guys need to get with the program. It's, you know, we have to modernize. And then they're like, well, it must be the user's fault. Or then it's like, okay, well, we understand some people haven't gotten it. So just, you know, give us the names. And they're like, buddy, 86,000 names. You want us to give you, and even before that, it was 10,000 names. You want us to send you 10,000 names to your office? Like, and now, of course, the MPs don't have those names. Those are figures from the department itself. So the department knows that these people are not getting their checks. They know that there's a number of people not being issued. So what's going on again? It's just like the Phoenix pay fiasco all over again, where you spend all this extra money to fix the software when you could have just used that money to hire people to do it by hand. You could have used that money to give people jobs for the rest of their lives to do it by hand. And now, of course, the software is going to need continuous management and upgrades and repairs. That's how software works. Until, of course, the next government comes in and decides to change software again. And it's not the only department with software issues, right? There are plenty of other departments that use other types of software. And I know from someone within the government telling me that SAP that was being used to track everything in the military and in the public service. Well, I don't know. Maybe they decided not to buy any more space for memory, but they said that server was full and they need to go to another program, which I guess is a good excuse to hire their own consultants, to hire their own friends, to create their own software programs, which apparently go into cost overruns. It's almost a bit like a riot scam all over again, isn't it? Isn't it? Washington, Ottawa. Groundbreaking study has mapped 2,294 organizations with proven links to the Chinese Communist Party United Front influence apparatus across the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom and Germany, with Canada exhibiting nearly 5 times the per capita penetration rate of the US, the highest density of CCP linked organizations among all four democracies, writes Sam Cooper. And Sam Cooper would know. He is the subject matter expert on communist Chinese influence across the globe. He's written extensively on it. He has to do personal security measures because of it. I'm sure the Chinese are not very happy with Sam Cooper, but I am very happy that he is part of the Canadian team trying to expose, save Canada from communist influence that the Liberal Party has wholly embraced. Wholly embraced. In fact, we know what's going on in Taiwan, or with Taiwan, we should say, with the Prime Minister still letting that document sign on his desk 9 months later, unsigned, with some trade ready to go with Taiwan. It's all worked out. There you go. All we need is a signature, Prime Minister. Boom, instant win. Nothing, nada, crickets. Can't be signing that. That might upset their Chinese masters. Chinese masters. I got a little something here for that. See if this plays here.
Believing the Liberals are
But the
helping
new
Canadians is as ridiculous as
world
believing the budget will balance
order.
itself.
Answer, move on, man, move on, you know.
In line with our historic policy.
Over 2 million people a month to the food bank.
Yeah, sorry about that. Try to do that clip real quick, but still getting used to these scenes on this software. And of course, he says here, stand by for report, which means, yeah, I guess we will be getting that information very, very soon. Okay, Ron. Always a good time with Ron.
Look, I got to talk about these crazy goddamn electric car rebates, okay? First of all, most important, I'm not mad at electric cars. I'm not mad at them. I don't drive one. I don't plan on buying one. But I'm not mad at electric cars. Electric cars are proven to be a reasonable alternative, okay? They may not work in 20 below every single day like we've had in Toronto now for a week, but, well, they may not work as well. I don't know, but I'm not mad at them. Look, I spend a lot of time in electric cars. I take a lot of Ubers. Uber drivers believe in electric cars because ultimately it's an important way to economize on gas and oil changes and everything else. So an Uber driver hopefully takes a good look at the economics of it and says, I'm better off with an electric car. Okay, good. But let's be clear, not mad, but I'm mad at the goddamn rebates, okay? Let's look at this crazy idea of these rebates on this electric car. So what does an electric car cost, first of all? Well, let's just take the most popular electric car in North America. The most popular EV, I'm going to call them EVs now, most popular EV in North America, Tesla, okay? So if you look at the price of a Tesla in Canada, probably about the cheapest one starts at 60 grand, 60 G's for the car. And probably more likely you're going to spend 68 or 70 in that range, okay? You could spend a lot more, but let's assume that's what you spend, okay? So that's not cheap, all right? That is not a cheap car. So that could be more than 70. I don't know what the average Tesla sells for. The average Tesla, by the time you finish paying for, finish for all the things you want in it, maybe it's 72. But anyway, let's talk about what an old-fashioned, the old internal combustion engine car, the IB car, okay? ICB, whatever the fuck, okay? Anyway, old-fashioned car, gas car, all right? You could buy one, a brand new one, for like 24 grand, okay? Now, it's a very small car. It's not fancy at all. I think it's like the, who has cheap stuff? Nissan. Nissan has a cheap car. 22 grand, 23 grand, something like that, okay? Hyundai's got some cheap cars. It's 26 grand for their cheapest car. Not fancy car. Far, far, far from fancy. But I'm saying it's a car. It will get you from point A to point B. Again, it's brand new, okay? Possibly, I can't remember if it's the most popular car in Canada, but I think it's pretty close. You can buy a Honda Civic in Canada for about 29 grand to change, okay? You buy two of them for one Tesla, okay? 2 for 1. I mean, look, it's worse than that. This EV rebate bullshit is actually worse than just the enormous price difference on the cars. It's worse because it's meant for rich people, okay? It's meant for people who are well off. You're giving up to $5,000 rebate to people who are buying a car who have enough money or the wherewithal or the income to buy only an expensive new car, okay? Because guess what? A lot of people who can't afford much, average working people, a lot of them buy used cars, okay? A lot of poor people buy not poor, like if they're destitute, they're not buying anything, but a lot of lower income people buy used cars. This rebate has fuck all nothing to do with these used cars. Nothing. It can even be a used EV. Nothing to do with it. Only new cars. Okay. Obviously, the government's idea is it's going to encourage the use of EVs, and once everybody tries them, everybody will love them, and everybody will buy more. Which also is fuckery. Okay, because if they've been around now for a long time, they've been all on the road for a long, long time, years and years now. So if they were so much better, why do we even need rebates? But let's circle back to the rich again. Circle back to the rich people part, okay? Because low-income people tend to buy used cars, okay? Next, low-income people tend to buy, in a big way, by the way, like a lot of low-income people buy a lot of used cars. Used car is a big business. These rebates apply to none of that, Next is, won't average income people, all if they want a new car, won't they buy that Civic? Like, seriously, it's half price. Okay. So does this make any fucking sense? Okay. Does the government of Canada giving rebates only for vehicles that are typically only purchased by two groups of people, the well-off, the top 15 or 20% or 10% of all income earners, we're giving a rebate to those people to buy a car, to the rich. We're effectively giving a rebate to the rich. Okay. Next is, taxpayers are paying it.
Yeah, and that's the best part right there, right? We're paying for it. We're paying for everyone else. In fact, we're paying for the rich to be even richer. Yeah. You know, I owned 10 cars in my life. And out of those 10 cars that I purchased, only one of them was brand new. And I bought that car brand new because I had just migrated from being in the reserves to the regular force. And I now had a regular job and I was single. And I figured I wanted a brand new car. And that's what I did at the age of 25. You know, and that was it. That was my last brand new car. And I hung on to that car for 10 years. I would have hung on to it much later, but some issues with that vehicle. That's a different story. But like you said, uh, twice the cost. And sure, I guess it might work well in a city, but for average people, like I said, you know, it's going to trickle out. If it sits in your driveway, it loses charge all the time. If you're using it all the time, I guess it's fine. But if you're not using it, that charge slowly ekes out. And it's ICE, internal combustion engine. That's why they're so efficient, because the fuel doesn't evaporate away. It sits there and fuel levels don't change when you get back in your vehicle. And if they do, it's hardly noticeable whatsoever through normal venting and expansion. I see watching the house here, they're still doing statements by members. We're 3 minutes away, apparently, from the start of question period. And of course, with these electric vehicles, the other things that a lot of people don't touch, that a lot of people forget about when you buy a car, is that depending on the type of car you buy, your insurance rates are going to be tiered to that type of car, as well as your driving record and how long you've been insured with a safe driving record. All those things come together. And of course, your age is a factor in there as well. So let's say you're in a bad age bracket, and then you're not a really good driver, and then so now your insurance rates are going to be high regardless of what kind of car you buy. But then there's the added problem of EVs having a tendency to catch fire due to thermal runaway from damaged batteries. Now, I don't know, are insurance rates higher for EVs? They probably should be. Are there underground garages that say, no, you can't have an EV in here because, you know, explodey parts we don't like to have in our building, burning the whole building down? Who knows? That might be coming. And again, of course, it's a heavier vehicle, so it does more wear and tear to the roads because they weren't really designed for that, even though they do handle trucks. But the trucks, massive trucks, they spread their weight across the load. That's why trucks have to have regular weighing on scale so that they're not damaging the roads when they're traveling out there. But EVs, it's a pretty heavy vehicle all the time. Those tires, they wear down a lot faster too. You know, you think about that when you're doing your maintenance on your vehicle, then it goes, oh damn, I gotta buy some tires. And I was like, holy crap, look at the cost of those 4 tires. Of course, the larger your vehicle, the more the cost of your tires. There are no small EVs, are there? All these big ones they're talking about, 60 grand, 55 grand, regular size tires. One of those tires will probably run you 500 bucks a piece. You got to change them every year because it's a heavy vehicle and they wear out a lot. And of course, because they wear, they add the majority of the particulate that you're going to be finding on 400 series highways when you're driving across them. All those tires wearing off, and you get that bit of a smog and stuff, and a little particulate. Part of that's going to be worn off rubber from the tires. And of course, EVs wear that rubber off a lot faster. Still statements by members, and we're at 14 after. We have time for another post. Here, Martin Peltier writes, Rosenberg at econ guy Rosie absolutely nails it and must be read for Canadians. Canada has now endured a decade of virtual stagnation in real per capita incomes, productivity and growth in private sector capital stock, as well as unprecedented net direct investment outflows. Productivity in Canada is in a secular decline. That is not Trump. That is not on Trump. Productivity growth is basically flat over the past year. That compares to 2% in the US, and get this, almost 10% in Ireland. 10% growth in Ireland, good for them. Canada's flatline. 0% GDP growth last year. Remember what Carney said? We want to build faster. The speeds never seen before. Blah, blah, blah. Anyways, the Canadian government has built up such a machinery that it represents 26% of GDP. That's insane. The government being responsible for 26% of GDP, all that spending that they keep calling investing, the snake eating its tail, that's what that is. The business sector now commands around 10% share. That's horrible. That's that's horrible. My God, we're going to be Greece any moment now, which is about 3/4 of what it is in the US. Wow, my God. I wonder if most Canadians know or even care that business taxation in this country amounts to nearly 5% of GDP. It is barely more than 2% in the US, less than 3% for many countries in Europe, and we have the dubious honor of being the highest in that respect for all G10 countries. So no wonder nobody wants to come to Canada and invest here. We tax the death out of them. Yeah, we've been taxing the hell out of them, and what do we have to show for it? Nothing. Businesses are leaving. We are not a business-friendly country. Mark Carney talks about initiatives to drive internal demands dynamics. But this is really all just a case of nibbling around the edges and smoke and mirrors. Over 1 year, it's a temporary GST holiday, and now it's a tax break on electric vehicles. Talk about bringing a butter knife to a gunfight. What is wrong with Canadians that we continuously refuse to vote in like-minded governments aimed at promoting economic success? A true mystery. No, it's not a true mystery. We know exactly what happened. The public is continually brainwashed into a fear-based narrative, evoking a reaction from them. And it looks like we might be starting. Seem to be getting in place. Statements by members. Are we still doing statements? Yes, we're still doing statements. Okay. Let's stop diverting attention away from the real problem and let's stop nibbling around the edges with rebates and sector-specific tax incentives. It's high time to think big. Yeah. The only way to think big is to replace these guys and get them out of the government because they won't stop doing what they're doing, which is stopping everything from happening in Canada so they can continue to enrich themselves. And it's got to go past their gate. If they're not getting piece of the pie as it goes through, well, nothing happens. That's why they don't work with other parties. They only work with themselves. Breaking news, the Parliamentary Budget Officer has confirmed that a federal healthcare program used by rejected and failed asylum claimants is projected to cost over $1.5 billion per year. And just in the 2nd of February, they were saying it was only $900 million per year. So how could they be off by $600 million? That's because they were giving us their crap budget stats, whereas the PBO, who has access to the real data, gives us the real truth. This is far higher than what the Liberals have led Canadians to believe. Oh, no poop, Sherlock. Conservatives forced an investigation at the Health Committee into the interim federal health program, and now the independent PBO has exposed just how out of control the costs have become. Rejected asylum claimants are receiving supplemental benefits like physiotherapy. Really? Citizens have to pay for that themselves. Speech therapy and home care. While 6.5 million Canadians can't find the basic services of a family doctor, I've been waiting 4 bloody years for a doctor. I got my first appointment at the end of March since I left the military. And even then, there's no guarantee I'm actually going to see a doctor. Canadians are rightfully asking why rejected asylum claimants are getting better health benefits than they are. Well, yes, it's a very good question. Why is this happening? At committee, doctors testified that under the IFHP, doctors are charging up to 5 times provincial rates. Oh, it's that old scam again, eh? Well, can you blame the doctors? They're so underwater by so many fees and governmental responsibilities that the only way for them to run a practice is to make as much money as they can, especially now, of course, that the federal government said that they were going to take most of the profit that doctors do in their practice by investing it all in their practice. But when they sell their practice, they're going to lose most of that money. Yeah, to the government. So why would the doctors stay and run a practice? Maybe they'll stay if they can run this little scam here and charge 5 times. 5 times. Of course, who's paying for that? We are, right? Because it's charging the government. And where's the government get its money? The government is the people who pay their taxes. This raises serious concern that the program is being financially exploited with no oversight. The PBO will testify at the Health Committee today. More to come. And that was posted by Dan Mazier. And are we going to start? We're still doing statements by members. Looks like, looks like we're starting. Okay.
For those whose lives like to reiterate.
Oral questions. Questions orales. The honourable member for Regina Capel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of the official opposition, I would like to reiterate the messages of condolences and support from this House to the victims who are still fighting for their lives, for those whose lives were cut short, and for their families, and for the community still reeling from the senseless shooting in Tumbler Ridge, BC. Je souhaite réitérer le message de...
I wish to repeat the condolences and support of this House to those families affected, those whose lives were tragically taken. Our condolences and thoughts to the very shaken community.
As to the support being provided, and share any news that would be appropriate as this investigation proceeds.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, et pour la question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank my honourable colleague for his question.
Been grieving since the horrific events of Tuesday, and nowhere is that grief more deeply felt than in the community of Tumbler Ridge itself. The residents have come together to support each other in this time of indescribable pain, and obviously, Mr. Speaker, we want to assure them they are not alone. The Minister of Public Safety is in Tumbler Ridge working with colleagues, and including the Member of Parliament, working with provincial and municipal partners to hear directly from the community and coordinating with those levels of government. Service Canada officials are planning to be present very soon on the ground as well, and we expect that further updates will be provided from the RCMP as information becomes available and as their investigation progresses. Finally, Mr. Speaker, at the invitation of the Mayor of Tumbler Ridge, the Prime Minister will be traveling to the community on Friday to attend a vigil in memory of the victims of this week's tragic shootings, and the Prime Minister has invited leaders of all parties to accompany him to the community. Mr. Speaker, this has been a dark week in the history of our country, and I know we will all, working together, get through this, and we continue to send our heartfelt best wishes and sympathies to the people of Tumbler Ridge.
The honourable member for Regina Capel.
I thank the Minister for that update. Mr. Speaker, the Canadian dream of home ownership is fading for too many young Canadians. Despite lots of announcements, the actual results from the Liberal housing plan is downright depressing. Home ownership among 30 to 34-year-olds has fallen to 52%. New home sales are down from 45% in the GTA and 56% in Vancouver. In fact, the government's own housing agency is predicting that new home starts will fall, not increase, by more than 18% for the next 3 years. It's clear more bureaucracy isn't the answer. When will the government adopt the Conservative plan to kickstart home building by removing the GST on all new homes and restore the dream of home ownership for young Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our government cares deeply about affordability for young Canadians, and that's why before the House right now is the Build Canada Homes Act. Build Canada Homes is about strengthening Canada's future by creating a modern, resilient housing industry. We are building an industry that protects our economy, empowers our workers, and gives Canadians, especially young Canadians, the affordable housing they need. The Build Canada Homes Act is before this House. We hope the members opposite will support it.
The Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
Speaker, the government's own data shows that building bureaucracy doesn't actually get results. But the Liberals also have it backwards on the auto sector. In the last 10 years of the Liberal government, the number of vehicles produced in Canada has fallen from 2.3 million cars to 1.2 million. Their plan forced working Canadians to send their tax dollars to subsidize the purchase of EVs that most Canadians can't afford, and the vast majority of which of those EVs sold in Canada are not made in Canada. That means some of the biggest winners of this subsidy program are American auto workers. Instead of forcing Canadian workers to subsidize foreign-made vehicles, why not adopt the Conservative plan and remove the GST on all new vehicles?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
I would like first and foremost to extend my, of course, prayers and heart to the victims and families in Tumbler Ridge, and know that this government is in support of those affected. Mr. Speaker, I would like to remind my colleague that the money that is going to be supported in EV incentives is actually for Canadians, at a time where we need to make sure that affordability is at the core of everything we do as a government. And that is why Canadians need to be able to have access to more money to afford the right cars, including those made in Canada. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the number of cars manufactured in Canada has decreased by half compared to 2016, and over 5,000 jobs have been lost. To add insult to injury, the Prime Minister has introduced an auto strategy that subsidizes EVs made in foreign countries. However, on this side of the House, we have a better idea. Why not ease the burden on Canadian workers and taxpayers by cutting these subsidies for EVs manufactured abroad? Do they think it's a good idea? Yes or no? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, what is a good idea is our auto strategy. Our auto strategy is welcomed and applauded by the industry, by the industry's workers, by all those who want to make sure that they are employed today, tomorrow, and in 10 years in that sector. The world is moving toward electrification of transportation. We need to modernize. We need to go in that direction, and that's why we have our auto strategy. Why are they ideologically opposed to not only affordability, but also electric transportation? The Honourable Member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. So does that mean that the global market is doing well and that that Canadian market is not? Now, Mr. Speaker, Quebec City, as we know, has always been a tight-knit community, a place where you can buy a house, raise a family in total safety. But now, Mr. Speaker, we must say that the Liberals have increased immigration so much that it has become impossible for young people to buy their first home, even in Quebec City. One thing is certain, that doesn't seem to bother the mayor of Quebec City, who celebrates this terrible situation in the Globe and Mail. Will the Minister of Immigration finally admit that the disproportionate immigration levels imposed on Quebec are preventing young Quebecers from buying a home and starting a family? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's ironic to hear the member talking about affordability. The mandate of Build Canada Homes is to build affordable homes all over the country. There are sectors going through tough times right now, like steel, lumber, aluminum. We are going to protect industries, protect jobs, and we are going to build homes that are affordable to people. There are also a lot of helpful NGOs. Will they stand up for their constituents in their ridings and vote for the budget, Mr. Speaker? That's the real question. The honourable member for Charlesbourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. I don't think she understood my question. She should read an article published yesterday. In the article, Étienne Alexandre Beauregard, who's a young Quebec intellectual, warned that the war on cars, radical environmentalism, and overly restrictive immigration levels are changing Quebec's unique identity. Young people can no longer afford to build a home, and Quebec City's Liberal MPs, just like the mayor of Quebec, refuse to face the facts. Can the Minister of Immigration finally admit that by exceeding Quebec's intake and integration capacity for immigrants, her Liberal government has caused house prices to skyrocket, preventing young people from becoming homeowners? The Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, day after day, what the Conservatives have for us is slogans. They don't have a plan. They don't have suggestions. All they do is block things. Canadians expect that their members of parliament stand up to defend their interests. We have a plan. Our plan is Budget 2025, which is still stuck in committee being blocked. We want to have a strong economy today, a strong economy tomorrow, and we want to support workers going through tough times. So will the Conservatives support us and work with us, setting their ego aside? Once again, I, the Speaker, am standing. The honourable member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, according to the government, 85,000 pensioners are experiencing issues with their old age security benefits because of the Curam software. The government has been aware of this since June. Still today, they refuse to take action. Meanwhile, the cost of Curam has skyrocketed. It went from $1.75 billion to over $6 billion. 85,000 Canadians are suffering from a software that has a cost overrun of $5 billion. But the Liberals feel that everything is fine and dandy. Our patience has run out. Will the Prime Minister order a commission of inquiry on Curam? The Honourable Minister. This project was actually under budget. Over 7 million seniors are now receiving their benefits on time through a model.
They just lie. They just lie with impunity. We know it's $5 billion over budget. It's not within the budget, you lying McLean, you.
System. The total cost of Curam is the cost for 4 distinct projects. $1.75 billion was the amount for that project, and $6.6 billion was the amount approved for the total duration of the project. If the member knows of anyone affected, she can give us their names and we will help them. The honourable member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the government's own numbers estimate that 85,000 retirees are affected by Curam issues, but the ministers tell us that we can give them the names of those who are affected if there are problems. There are 85,000 people experiencing problems, according to the government's own estimates. And the cost overrun for the software ballooned from $1.75 billion to $6.6 billion. And the government says, oh, no, that's not a cost overrun. They tell us it includes the cost of inflation and contingency planning. Inflation, Mr. Speaker. When will they set up a commission of inquiry? The Honourable Minister of Families and Employment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Every day I say the same thing. Our old system was very old. We invested to modernize our system, and the vast majority of benefit recipients have no problems. If there are any unresolved cases, the minister and the office, we are working with them to quickly solve their problems. And if the minister would like to hear more about that, I'd be happy to discuss it. The honourable member for Abitibi-Témiscamingue. Well, isn't it wonderful, Mr. Speaker? Curam, the software, was supposed to cost $1.7 billion. Now it's up to $6.6 billion, which is a cost overrun of $5 billion. But according to the Liberals, it's not a cost overrun. No, they say that the initial contracts had a lower amount because things cost more now, maybe inflation. They really take us for fools. And there are many issues in Quebec. All right, well, there are limits. There are some limits.
L'honorable ministre.
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I've worked very well with the MP opposite, and I invite him to come and be briefed on the Curum system. As we've been saying in the House, this is a very old system that needed modernization. In fact, one of the aspects of modernization is people can now apply for their benefits online without personal assistance. That's going to relieve the load on the entire department. And Mr. Speaker, 7.5 million people have transitioned to this new system without problems. For those urgent cases that are stuck in the queue, we will make sure they get their benefits urgently. We can do that within 48 hours, Mr. Speaker. Please send us the names.
The honourable member for Elgin St. Thomas, London South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The dream of home ownership is now a fantasy for more and more young Canadians. 93% of them are saying that they are concerned about the state of housing. Nearly half of them believe they will have to leave their own communities because they can't afford to live there. The government's own housing agency says home building will drop over the next 3 years and prices will go up even more. But I've got good news for the Liberals. We have a solution. A Conservative government would remove the GST on new homes under $1.3 million to make them more affordable. Why won't the Liberals do it?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Mr. Speaker, I have good news for the Conservatives. There are 2 bills before this House that they can support that improve affordability for young Canadians. The first is the Budget Implementation Act, which brings in the first-time home ownership GST rebate. The second thing it brings in is housing infrastructure that brings down the cost of housing. Wow. And on top of that, they can support the Build Canada Homes Act, which is catalyzing modern methods of construction and creating jobs for young Canadians.
Excellent. The honourable member for Elgin St. Thomas, London South.
Mr. Speaker, the only thing these Liberals are building is false hope and bureaucracy. Liberal house flippers and penthouse dwellers profit while young Canadians pay the price. On this side of the House, we listen to the experts. The London Home Builders Association told me this week that builders have to spend tens of thousands of dollars per home just on red tape and regulations. Every dollar spent on bureaucracy pushes homes further out of reach for young Canadians. Ontario lost 10,000 home building jobs last year because no one is able to build. When will the Liberals reverse course, cut the red tape, and scrap the GST on homes for families?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
I know the members' community I know is riding very well. They expect better than hurling insults. That's not a way to get things done in this House of Commons, Mr. Speaker. The point is, and he talks about the London Home Builders Association, it's good. We met this week as well. They talked about, among other things, the Housing Accelerator Fund, which in St. Thomas alone is leading to duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, mid-rise apartments, and row houses. We're going to continue in that vein, working with municipalities, because we're going to get things done for Canadians and not play games.
The honourable member for York Centre.
Speaker, because of the Liberals, the dream of home ownership is fading for young Canadians. According to CMHC, new housing starts will drop every year for the next 3 years. Nearly half of Canadians say they have to move out of the community they grew up in because they can't afford a home. Instead of incentivizing new construction, the Liberals are building a fourth housing bureaucracy called Build Canada Homes. For what? Why won't the Liberals adopt our Conservative plan, remove the GST of all new homes, and get construction going in Canada?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. More good news. Build Canada Homes is delivering affordable housing for Canadians. In just 100 days, they have secured landmark agreements with the provinces and the cities. Wow. Advanced building on 6 federal lands. Excellent. They're lining up thousands of affordable homes, grounds with shovels in the ground very soon. Great and over the past month alone, they have projects underway in Nova Scotia, Quebec, Ontario, and they're setting forth on delivering 7,500 new homes. Wow. This is how we catalyze a new home building industry. Excellent. And you know what? Keep the momentum going. Support Build Canada Homes Act.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for York Centre.
The only thing the Liberals are building is a fourth housing agency. More desk jobs for Liberal insiders and more Liberal waste. But CMHC is telling them their housing plan is dead on arrival. New housing starts will fall every year for the next 3 years. Builders are laying off workers, and Build is warning that 100,000 construction jobs are now at risk. So instead of building a fourth government agency, why won't they adopt our Conservative plan, remove the GST of all new construction so young people can afford to buy a home?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I wish that the Conservatives knew more about construction. It seems what they know about is obstruction. Mr. Speaker, if these Conservatives cared about building homes for young Canadians, they would pass the 2 bills that we have before the House right now. They would pass our Budget Implementation Act, and they would pass our Build Canada Homes Act, because those are the tools that are getting shovels in the ground right across Canada for the next generation of young Canadians who need affordable homes.
The Honourable Member for Langley Township, Fraser Heights.
Under this Liberal government, the Canadian dream of home ownership is rapidly fading for young people. CMHC reports that housing starts are actually going to be down over the next 3 years by up to 18% compared to last year. So why don't the Liberals just adopt the Conservative plan to eliminate GST on all new housing construction up to $1.3 million and help restore the dream of home ownership for young Canadians?
Yeah, right. That's the Capper Van Hoff.
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, thoughts and prayers for the community of Tumbler Ridge. That's a party that's not serious about housing. Their leader called middle-class housing shacks, co-op housing Soviet style. There's members on that side that mocked modular homes.
Wow.
And to cap it all off, that leader told his members not to advocate for housing programs in their ridings that would have helped their ridings. On this side of the House, we're serious about building housing. Budget 2025 is going to deliver housing like we've not seen built in generations. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Langley Township, Fraser Heights.
So what we've not seen ever in generations is a government that says that the only way you're going to get housing is through the government. The only way you're going to get fed is through the government. That's why they're doing it. So they can control everything. They don't want independent makers building houses for them. All those tradespeople, they're gone. They're leaving the country. They're not going to be here anymore to build houses. They're going down to the States to work.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that answer is completely unacceptable. The Canadian Homeowners Association, Builders Association, says that 5 years ago, new housing starts in the ownership market stood at 69%, the rest being in the rental market. Last year, that number had dropped down to 49%. So despite all the nice talk, clearly the Liberal plans are not helpful for prospective new buyers. So again, why don't they just adopt our plans and help restore the dream of homeownership once again for Canadians?
Well done. Great job, Jacob. Great job.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Speaker, our big focus is to build as many housing as possible. We're going to build that housing through Canada Build Homes. We're going to build that housing on federal lands, just like in my community in Ottawa Centre, where we're repurposing federal buildings, we're repurposing federal lands to build housing, and we will do that across.
Federal land, sorry about that, the mic. Federal fucking land. That's all they want to do is build Soviet-style housing on federal land that you have to rent. Never be able to own a home again. You will own nothing and you will be happy.
Let's start building homes, plan. Why are you against us?
Because you're communists.
Across the country, some slogans is not going to cut it. As we see from the opposition, they need to stop obstructing. They need to pass Bill C-20 so we can start building housing across this land.
The Honourable Member for Richmond Hill South.
The Canadian dream of home ownership is slipping away from young Canadians. The government's own housing agency says housing starts will fall for the next 3 years, going down as much as 18% by 2028, while prices keep going up. After years of Liberal policies that drove up costs and slowed down constructions, buyers can't buy and builders can't build. And the only solution the Liberals can come up with is to build a fourth housing bureaucracy. When will this government admit that Liberal rhetoric and bureaucracies don't build homes and finally scrap the GST on all new homes, incentivize building, and restore the dream of home ownership?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's regrettable the member opposite is in supportive of Build Canada Homes. I was just in his riding, where we actually announced a project, and I spoke with the residents that are living in affordable housing there, and they talked about how important it was. So we know that with Budget 2025, we're working to accelerate construction. We're cutting delays. We're increasing permitting capacity. We're working with local governments to get more homes built. While we're doing that, they're voting against expanding mortgage rate criteria for young Canadians. They're voting against the first-time savings account, and they're voting against the GST credit for first-time homebuyers. Why?
The Honourable Member for Drummond. Mr. Speaker, next Tuesday, Quebec will attend a UNESCO conference and continue its efforts to protect cultural diversity from the hegemony of web giants. Quebec will join forces with European countries to ensure that the 2005 UNESCO Convention, which protects all cultures in the context of globalization, also applies to the digital world. But it's not a done deal, because since Quebec is not yet a country, Canada votes on our behalf. And last June, Canada did not vote in favour of adopting a binding protocol. This time, Mr. Speaker, will Canada reconsider? The Honourable Minister of Culture, Canadian Culture and Identity. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It goes without saying that my predecessor at the last meeting really did a good job. I don't have anything that I can reveal yet, but we're on a similar wavelength. The Honourable Member for Drummond. Well, you see, Mr. Speaker, Canada votes on behalf of Quebec at UNESCO, and last June, Canada did not vote in favour of a binding protocol to protect our cultural sovereignty from web giants. Worse still, the government then proceeded to scrap the digital services tax that would have forced the GAFAM group to pay a minimum of royalties that could have supported our culture and our media organizations. Next week, Canada can take a step in the right direction by supporting the principle of a protocol. The entire cultural industry and the government of Quebec are counting on that. Will Canada vote to protect our culture? A yes or a no, particularly yes, would be much better than the answer we just got, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, if the member across the way really wanted to support artists and creators in Canada, he would vote yes, as he's telling us to do, but he would vote yes to our budget. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse et Saint-Chemin, Lévis. The Phoenix fiasco is back to haunt us. The Phoenix pay system deprived thousands of civil servants of their pay for weeks, for months. We all remember that. Today, there's the QRM software. The Liberals are creating a Phoenix fiasco for seniors, but on a larger scale, according to federal employees. This project was supposed to cost $1.7 billion. The bill has skyrocketed now up to $6.6 billion. 93% of employees give the project a failing grade, Mr. Speaker. Why do the Liberals insist on repeating the same IT mistakes? Billion after billions of dollars at the expense of retirees, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors. We are modernizing a very old system. If we had not done anything or taken action, that would have been very problematic for seniors and their benefits. Currently, mistakes are being corrected and retroactive payments are guaranteed. If there are any individual cases, members across the way can give us their names and we will address those cases. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse, Les Échemins, Lévis. Well, that's a very embarrassing response, Mr. Speaker. There are retirees who've been waiting for their benefits for 9 months. It's shameful. Ministers are hiding the truth from Canadians. Ministers and public servants are being instructed not to mention the name of the QRM software. Why is the minister more interested in hiding her own incompetence than in helping our seniors receive their benefits on time? They really need those benefits, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, of course seniors need to receive their pension. And we will, of course, ensure that. Over 7 million people are receiving their pension benefits through the software. The minister has been reassuring people every day, but the opposition just keeps asking the same question day after day, and we keep telling them the same thing. If they have any names, they should send them to us, or people can speak directly to Service Canada. The minister offered members across the way a briefing session. They should take the minister up on that and learn more about the QRM software.
Charlevoix.
The honourable member from Montmorency. Mr. Speaker, like across Quebec, families are spending more than 30% of their income to keep a roof over their heads. Vacancy rates are extremely low and housing insecurity continues to rise. Not knowing whether you'll be able to pay your rent or not causes stress and anxiety and constant pressure on the mental health of our young people and families. After 10 years of Liberal policies that have caused housing costs to skyrocket, how much longer will families have to live in uncertainty before this government takes real action to increase the housing supply and keep prices down? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We're not taking Canadians for fools. They know that who is working for them in terms of affordability. Mr. Speaker, they don't have a plan or a solution, just rhetoric. On our end, we've already had agreements across Quebec. We had one with Nova Scotia as well, and the Nunavut. We are going to accelerate building construction for affordable homes, and that is the mission of Build Canada Homes. We're going to do with Canadian supplies, with Canadian workers. We're going to support our industry, build more homes. And the question is, are they going to really be there for their citizens? Thank you. The honourable member for Montmorency, Charlevoix. The Liberals like to pat each other on the back, but the CMHC now forecasted nearly 20% drop in housing starts by 2028, and that means fewer homes, even less supply, and even more pressure on prices. Meanwhile, 93% of our young people say that they're concerned about the housing situation in the country, and 86% of builders fear for the survival of their companies. The industry itself is talking about a lost decade for home ownership. If the Liberals are going to take inspiration from our ideas every week, why don't they adopt our plan to cut GST on all new homes to boost construction and give young people to have the dream of ownership again? Mr. Speaker, we know that young Canadians are going through tough times right now with the cost of living and the cost of rent. But the good news is Build Canada Homes is already seeing results. In the first 100 days, we've moved to action. We've established major agreements with some provinces, and these projects won't be able to move forward until the opposition supports our budget and C-15 and the bill on Build Canada Homes. We need their cooperation. If they're really here for their citizens, they need to vote with us. Thank you. The honourable member for Levis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, the Canadian dream of home ownership is fading for young Canadians. In its new report, the CMHC indicates that housing starts in 2028 could fall by as much as 18.1% over last year. The Canadian Home Builders Association says that current conditions will create a lost decade for home ownership in Canada. When will the government adopt our plan to stimulate residential construction by cutting the GST on all new homes so that our young people can once again hope to have their own homes? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With Build Canada Homes, we're responding to what Canadians really need. They want us to build homes that meet their needs and budgets. And all the member across the way is doing is talking about cutting GST on all homes. Just get rid of the tax, they say. I don't imagine how they could expect to govern if they're just obstructing. So, but we do have a real plan. It's called the Budget 2025, and we hope that they will approve it. Thank you.
The honourable member for New Westminster, Burnaby, Mallardville.
Mr. Speaker, there has been an outpour of grief and support across this country following the Tumbler Ridge tragedy that occurred on Tuesday. This House has come together to honour the innocent lives lost. Can the Secretary of State for Combating Crime please reflect on the mass shooting in BC?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, the nation is heartbroken by this tragic shooting in Tumbler Ridge, British Columbia. Our hearts are with the families and friends and loved ones of all the victims, and with the little girl who is currently fighting for her life. May we all keep her in our prayers. We are forever grateful for the speed and courage of the RCMP and all first responders on that day. Their actions and bravery have saved lives. Thank you.
The honourable member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Despite the Liberals signing on to $52 billion to create an EV supply chain in Canada, the vast majority of EVs bought here are not made here. And now, despite the massive government subsidies, the auto companies are recording multi-billion-dollar losses on EVs and abandoning or delaying EV projects. But the Liberals now are doubling down with their new $2.3 billion EV subsidy, where Canadian workers will be forced to subsidize the purchase of foreign-made EVs, including EVs made in the United States. At a time like this, Mr. Speaker, it's unconscionable. Will the Liberals reverse course and stop Canadian tax dollars from funding the American-made EVs?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Of course, we believe in affordability, and we believe that Canadians can have access to EV incentives up to $5,000 for a car up to $50,000, and also for Canadian EVs, because obviously we believe that the future of the industry is towards electrification. Recently, there were more EV sales in Europe than gas combustion cars. Right. And at the same time, we know that in the next 5 years, 40% of all the cars worldwide will be electrified. So our plan is to make sure that we bring our industry at the forefront of innovation, and that good jobs are created here.
The honourable member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, the bottom line is the American tariffs have cost 5,000 jobs in Canada's auto sector and tens of thousands more jobs in the manufacturing sector across the board. And meanwhile, the Liberals created a $2.3 billion taxpayer-funded program that will subsidize the purchase of American-made EVs to the direct benefit of the American auto sector when they're trying to destroy our auto sector. This is wrong, and the minister can easily rectify this. Will she do that?
The Honourable Minister.
I have a lot of time for my colleague, a lot of respect for her, but she also knows that our auto industry is facing obviously important challenges, but it took months for the Conservatives to actually denounce the U.S. tariffs on auto. And we know that the entire sector is integrated within North America, Canada, U.S., Mexico. Now, when she's talking about EVs made in the U.S., she has to take into account, and Conservatives need to take into account, that Canadian auto parts are part of these EVs. Is she going after the Canadian auto parts workers all across Ontario? That's my question.
They must think Canadians are morons, right? Because that means the auto manufacturers already purchased the Canadian auto parts, right? They've already purchased that. So the industry's already made its money on the Canadian auto parts. Now the finished product that they're selling is the one you're subsidizing, but it's coming from the States. You moron.
The honourable member for Dufferin-Caledon.
On Tuesday afternoon and Tuesday evening, I was in Toronto with the Unifor Skilled Trades Council conference. Those are the men and women that actually work in our auto plants to make sure the machinery and equipment works. And when I told them that their tax dollars were going to go to subsidize the purchase of American EVs, they were outraged and disgusted. Actually, they couldn't believe it was happening. So it's simple. Why would Canadian tax dollars be going to subsidize American EVs when Donald Trump is trying to kill our auto industry? Will they show they care about auto workers by cancelling the rebates for American EVs?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, finally, my colleague met with the Unifor workers.
Yeah.
It took him months to do that. We've been in contact with Unifor since the get-go, before even U.S. tariffs were imposed. We've been in contact with them to make sure that we would be working together as one Team Canada, because it took also months for the Conservatives to actually denounce the U.S. tariffs on our auto workers. We're there with the industry, from industry, businesses, to auto workers, unions. Everybody's in favor of the auto strategy, including Premier Ford. Why are they?
The honourable member for Dufferin-Caledon.
I have met with auto workers for the past 2 years. It's how we came up with our policy to take the HST off of all Canadian autos. It's actually the union workers' idea. What isn't their idea is to give their tax dollars to Donald Trump's America to build American vehicles. And these Liberals will not answer this question. Why are they giving these subsidies to EVs made in America when Donald Trump's stated goal is to destroy the Canadian auto industry? It's embarrassing, it's disgraceful, it's disgusting. They should look Canadian auto workers in the eye and apologize, but I know they won't.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I've known the colleague for a long time. He does have passion, I'll grant him that. Sometimes that passion leads him to act a bit too quickly. He forgot to talk to unions, Mr. Speaker. Earlier this week, he and other Conservatives raised the situation of workers at CAMI in Ingersoll, talking about the withholding of severance. What he forgot to do is actually talk to Unifor. Local 88 in Ingersoll came out with a statement. I'll review it for him, Mr. Speaker. We can look at it together. They said that their political posturing is unacceptable and they should not take advantage of the working people of Ingersoll. That's a direct quote, Mr. Speaker. It's unacceptable.
Let's not forget that all the unions are far left wankers in the tank with the NDP and or the Liberals, whichever ones are on their far left side of them. So if you're taking the word of the same unions that wouldn't protect their workers from the fascist COVID-19 mandates, well, of course they're quoting the unions. Right? But then again, he never answered the question, did he?
The Honourable Member for Niagara Falls, Niagara on the Lake.
Speaker, this government's new EV strategy fails to put Canadian workers and automakers first. How is allowing 49,000 Chinese-made EVs into Canada and subsidizing the purchase of American-made EVs going to help the laid-off workers at GM in St. Catharines, who worry about the future of their engine plant? GM has been in St. Catharines since 1929. Will the Liberals support our motion to stop forcing Canadian workers to subsidize foreign-made vehicles and remove the GST on Canadian-made vehicles?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, we stand with our auto workers, with unions, with businesses that communities are built around, but they are also standing with us. Auto workers, mayors, union leaders, premiers. Premier Ford called this a great auto strategy. But let me read this to the House. The president of Unifor Local 200 in Windsor, who chairs Unifor's Auto Council, says he's ecstatic over the measures put in place as part of Canada's auto strategy. He says, we're putting a third shift on. We want to make sure that third shift stays. This incentive is so important to our community. I was ecstatic to see the government put that in place.
The Honourable Member for Niagara Falls, Niagara on the Lake.
Speaker, that member's not talking to the Unifor members in St. Catharines who had an EV battery engine that was planned there, and GM moved it out because there's no sales. This government of Canada should not be subsidizing American-made EVs using Canadian taxpayers' money, especially when U.S. actions have already cost 5,000 Canadian auto worker jobs. Will the Liberals simply join us and finally put Canadians first and support our Conservative motion to remove the GST on Canadian-made vehicles?
The Honourable Minister of Industry.
Speaker, I know my colleague is fighting hard to change a narrative, but the auto strategy has been already out for a week, and everybody's in favor of it. So, including Unifor workers, of course, that are working at GM in St. Catharines, including Premier Ford, a very strong Conservative, which we all know, including, of course,
These people are retarded. And you said everybody wants it, except the actual people buying them who are not buying them, because every other EV fucking scheme you guys have funded has failed. It's failed because nobody's buying them. Morons.
auto parts workers, everyone. That's right. Why? Because fundamentally it's a good plan. We know that the industry is going towards electrification. Capital is following that innovation. And so we won't hold our workers back. We will protect them.
The Honourable Member for Cambridge.
Mr.
Speaker, after months of pressure from Conservatives, this government is finally slamming the brakes on its ideological electric vehicle mandate. But their new EV rebate scheme won't protect Canadian auto workers. It's just going to subsidize Tesla and send taxpayer money straight across the border. The government's gone from elbows up to selling out. They're driving other countries' economies forward, all while leaving Canadian workers in the dust. This Liberal government's policies are eroding our domestic vehicle manufacturing sector and the livelihoods of Canadian workers. When will they finally get behind the wheel for Canada instead of selling out to Donald Trump and Elon Musk?
Honorable Minister.
Honourable Minister.
Speaker, what the Conservatives need to understand right now is industry needs predictability and clarity. At a time where, indeed, there's a revision of the USMCA. We were able to provide that. And by providing that, now we're having conversation with German automakers, with Korean automakers, with Chinese automakers that want to invest in Canada and create good jobs. Why are they fundamentally against what the market is saying, which is this is a good plan and Canada is a great destination to invest?
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Essex.
Speaker, Essex Windsor's auto sector isn't just assembly lines. It's mold makers, tool shops, part suppliers, and automation firms. The Liberals promise to protect their jobs, yet they're handing out money to American EV companies, importing Chinese EVs, and costing thousands of families their livelihoods. EV policy was meant to protect workers. So will the Liberals stop forcing Canadian workers to subsidize foreign-made vehicles and remove the GST on new Canadian-made vehicles?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
The Industry Minister, the Prime Minister, every minister, this entire caucus is devoted to ensuring the well-being and future of the Canadian auto sector and workers, of course. Mr. Speaker, I invite workers, I invite Conservatives to support this government, to continue to ensure that measures are put in place to ensure the future well-being of that sector.
The honourable member for Hamilton East Stony Creek.
Canadian taxpayers should not be subsidizing American EVs when the U.S. trade conflict has already cost 5,000 Canadian auto manufacturing jobs and 37,000 since this Prime Minister took office. He needs to stop this insult to Hamilton auto workers and work with us to put Canadian auto jobs first. This is a time where the Canadian auto sector is looking for unity and action to stand up to Donald Trump. So will the Liberals join us and support our motion to remove the GST on new Canadian-made vehicles?
Yes.
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, of course, if the Conservatives knew a lot about the auto strategy, they would know that we're already supporting the Canadian-made auto sector and the Canadian-made vehicles. That will be for the Dodge Charger, that will be for the Pacifica, and we are convinced that there will be more because we will have more investment in the sector. But they've been asking the same question. I guess that their leader gave them a sheet to read. But fundamentally, what they need to remember is the Canadians are in favor of this because the entire sector is in favor of this. Yeah?
The Honourable Member for Hull Elmer. Mr. Speaker, a deep wave of sorrow is hitting our country, particularly in Kitigan, ZB, like the member for Pontiac described very eloquently earlier today. 2 young lives were cut short far too soon, leaving their loved ones and their entire community in mourning. Can the Secretary of State for Nature share her thoughts on this tragic incident in Quebec? Thank you. The Honourable Secretary of State. Mr. Speaker, it's already with a very heavy heart that I rise today to address this, my sincerest condolences to the family and loved ones of the victims of Kitigan ZB who are also in Ajnabig. A tragedy like this one, which adds to this already dark week, well, it is inexplicable. Using children as weapons to hurt others is unexplainable, and I am fully supporting this community and for everyone who is behind them, and all of my colleagues are as well. And with all of those who will have to intervene with this family and their loved ones, we have first responders, the healthcare community. It's really hard to understand the situation, so I'd like you to know that my thoughts are with you. Thank you.
The honourable member for Abbotsford South Langley.
Mr. Speaker, British Columbia is facing a public safety crisis. Extortion is now at record highs, and my community members are living in constant fear. Abbotsford police have been clear. They are calling on elected officials to act urgently and work across party lines to confront these growing threats. Canadian safety matter now. Will the Liberals act today, vote for our Conservative plan, supported by the BC NDP Premier, to ensure those convicted of serious crimes cannot exploit our refugee system in order to stay in Canada?
Good question.
The Honourable Secretary of State for International Development.
Mr. Speaker, the Premier of the province, the Mayor of Abbotsford, the Police Chief of Abbotsford have all said, please go across party lines, get C2 pass, get C12 pass, get C14. I used to think that maybe it's obstruction that they're doing, but really I think they don't even read the bills, because if they read the bills, they would know it would be very impactful to pass them, legislate them, and get the tools to the police that need them right away. Thank you.
The honourable member for Saskatoon West.
Apparently that minister wasn't around on Tuesday. Mr. Speaker, extortion is real, and newcomers to Canada are the ones that suffer. Here's an example of an extortion letter from Abbotsford. Warning, we are Indian gang members. We want our share from your businesses like protection money. We asking only $2 million in cash. We have links all over. Do not ignore us. It will affect you really bad. We gave you 1 month to decide. Threats like this one are followed by arson, shootings, and murder. And if caught, they claim refugee status. Will this government support our motion to stop people charged with serious crimes from claiming refugee status in order to avoid justice?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, extortion is real, and we're taking it very seriously. That's why back in June, we tabled lawful access measures in Bill C2. Those measures would make it possible for police to quickly investigate these types of crimes and child predator crimes as well, Mr. Speaker. It's important for us to give law enforcement the tools that they need to keep up with criminals. And the motion that's been brought forward by the Conservatives is basically moot. And C12, Mr. Speaker, all of the asylum cases that they're referring to would not be allowed.
The honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill.
Well, contrary to their claims today, everything is not fine, and the Liberal status quo is putting lives in danger. The Liberals, if what they're saying today is true, should have no problem supporting our motion that would stop non-citizen extortionists who shoot up homes in Surrey and in Brampton from filing bogus refugee claims or getting lenient sentences to dodge removal. Why are the Liberals so determined to keep allowing non-citizen extortionists to break the law and stay here?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, the same measures that I referred to on asylum that are in C12 currently in the Senate were originally presented in this House in C2 back in June. Had the Conservatives not obstructed at that time and cooperated with us, those asylum cases that the member is referring to would not be allowed. But good news, Mr. Speaker, that once that Bill C12 in the Senate passes, the claims that have been made will be cancelled, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Davenport.
Mr. Speaker, great news. We've already seen Build Canada Homes move quickly from promise to progress, delivering real results for Canadians. A great example, Dunn House Phase 2, located in Toronto's Parkdale community, which will provide supportive housing for at-risk seniors. Can the Minister of Jobs and Families, on behalf of the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure, update this House on how this project reflects the government's approach to accelerating affordable housing across the country?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Housing.
I've heard the member from Davenport over the years, and she is a tireless advocate for seniors and housing across Canada. Our government government is working to ensure that seniors can age in place with dignity and the supports they need. Indeed, Dunn House provides rent geared to income units for at-risk seniors in Toronto, which helps them live safely and independently. The Conservatives are asking how many. Well, over the past month alone, we've created 7,500 new homes just in the last month in Nova Scotia, in Quebec, in Ontario. Why are they standing in the way of this program?
The honourable member for
7,500 homes they claim to have created. Well, this is the first time this has been mentioned. There's no bloody way they built 7,500 homes using this Canada Bills program and just pop this number out of their ass? I don't fucking think so.
Canadian farmers are worried that an announcement by Beijing today means there is no deal to reduce tariffs on canola. On January 16th, the Prime Minister said he's engaged in a new strategic partnership with the People's Republic of China. And I quote, he said, by March 1st, Canada expects China to reduce tariffs on Canadian canola seed by a combined rate of about 15%. Today, Reuters said Beijing has delayed a decision on canola tariffs until March 9th. No decision means no deal. Yeah. Right. Why did the Prime Minister mislead Canadian farmers about having a deal to reduce canola tariffs for Canadian farmers?
of Agriculture and Agri-Food.
Free Buckley! Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm certainly glad that the opposition is now starting to talk about canola. Right. Mr. Speaker, we went for how long since we returned from China? I never heard a word about canola. Yeah. The leader of the opposition has canola in his new riding. Yeah. We're working hard. We'll continue to work hard. The lines of communication are open with China, and we'll continue to work with China, and we'll continue to work with every trading partner, Mr. Speaker. I met with the canola farmers last week in Ottawa, and we had a really good meeting, Mr. Speaker, and we'll continue to work with China and the contacts that we have there. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Courtenay Alberni.
Mr. Speaker, Canada is in a mental health crisis, and young people are being hit hardest, yet counselling, therapy and treatment still depend on workplace benefits or the ability to pay in a two-tier system. The PBO confirmed that bringing mental health care under the Canada Health Act and achieving parity with physical health care through Bill C-201 would cost just 1.5% of total public health spending. Will the minister act now and bring mental health care under the Canada Health Act, yes or no?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. And he knows very well that the mental health of Canadians is at the heart of our concerns. Health services, including mental health, are under provincial jurisdiction. I work closely with my provincial partners for them to deliver the best service possible for Canadians. And that ends question.
Oh, sorry, the honourable member for Saanich Gulf Islands. I apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Look, we know foreign interference is a threat to Canadian democracy. It was confirmed by the Hague Commission, and we've taken steps at the federal level for federal elections to deal with the threat of foreign interference. So my question to the honourable minister is there and what is being done now to consider the threat of foreign interference to provincial referenda that could break up this country when we know people in the White House are encouraging separatism? What are we doing to prepare?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, foreign interference in our democracy at any level is unacceptable, and the government has obviously carefully taken notes of the...
No, we need to hear this. The Honourable Government House Leader.
From the top, Mr. Speaker? Yeah. Foreign interference at any level and transnational repression at any level of our democracy is absolutely unacceptable. We, of course, have taken careful note of the recommendations of the Hague Commission, and we will be responding more fully, I and my colleagues, in due course. We have, of course, as the member pointed out, taken steps to protect Canada from our adversaries and to provide more information to the public about these threats. We will stand firm against attempts to undermine our democracy, and Mr. Speaker, we will take very firm steps to prevent people undermining our unity as well.
Here, here. Name the 11.
L'honorable député.
The honourable member. Thank you.
Ben, je juge avoir quand même utilisé un propos non parlementaire.
Well, I believe that I use non-parliamentary language, and I'd like to withdraw that language. That's highly appreciated. Thank you very much.
It being 3:13, pursuant to order made on Wednesday, February 11th, 2026, the House will now proceed to the taking of the deferred recorded division on the motion of Ms. Rempel Gardner relating to the business of supply. Call in the members. Thank you.
Right, there we go. That's the end of question period. Let's do a quick recap on what was covered. Well, of course, most of the time they talked about housing and home ownership on how and how that all ties into cost of living, because the Liberals have destroyed everything in Canada and nobody can afford anything. So it doesn't matter how many incentives they put forward. Oh, we'll give you a homeowners buying discount rebate, blah, blah, blah. But people are basically living paycheck to paycheck. So how can they save any money to buy a home? Right? And that's why they keep talking about this new housing plan, but it's all on federal land. So you won't be able to buy the houses. They want people just to rent for the rest of their lives and in government subsidized housing as well, right? Because that's how these National Socialists work. Of course, immigration was brought up, and with that, of course, is the false refugee claims from the extortion from people getting arrested to avoid justice. Of course, not surprising was the OAS. Now, that's again, today this was brought up twice, and the same tired responses from the government. Oh, you have to switch over to a new program. If we hadn't done something, it would have been worse. So just send us the names. And it's the same thing. We got 86,000 people. Your staff are telling you it's a horrible program. You've ordered your staff not to talk about the program. It's working fine. Just send us the names. We're resolving the issues. Well, if they're telling you every day it's not working fine, I guess it's not working fine. And this is going to be red meat for the bloc and for the opposition to use right until the fall session ends. Sorry, spring session ends. We're still in a winter session. I guess we'll be getting into the spring session soon, unless, of course, there's an election called. Quebec had the Bloc Québécois asked about Canada's representation at UNESCO concerning the digital services tax that Canada, of course, canceled, thank God, at the behest of the US. And of course, that drove the Bloc Québécois lunatic, because they're all far left lunatic green scammers, just like the Green Party. And they knew that this digital services tax, well, oh, that's to protect and to grab more money from people to pay for government programs. And that's all the Bloc are about, because they're a bunch of socialists as well. So they're, of course, being blocked. They're like, well, you didn't have proper representation for Quebec, because even though we are a unique society, we're not yet a country of our own. So what are you guys going to do for us next time you go to UNESCO? So Mark Miller basically had no response. It's just kind of like, well, what? I don't know what I did last year. I'll let you know what I do when I go back this year. That was his answer. And of course, the cost of living, extortion, blah, blah, blah. Oh yes, canola deal misleading. So this is not news to me, because of course we knew that when Carney went and did this China deal, this memorandum of understanding that they had was already in place, knowing that whatever the Chinese said that they were going to do, they didn't have to do it until the end of March as part of the deal. We knew that for everything in the MOU, including the fact that they were going to send over those EVs first, and then a month later, right? Then a month later, they would say yay or nay whether or not they would actually reduce the tariffs on the canola. But as of yet, they haven't, right? Because like anything else, we have a bunch of announcements, but no real deals in place. Nothing concrete actually happening now. And of course, NDP's always got the weirdest questions. Mental health crisis. I don't know why you're asking the federal health minister about a mental health crisis, other than the fact that the Liberals have caused more mental health issues over the last 11 years than any other entity in Canada, by the way that they have treated people. And then, of course, foreign interference issue brought up, which is kind of funny, seeing as it seems like no party out there has had any issues about temporary foreign residents voting in elections for their parties. Right? Stop it, guys. It's not a good idea. Now, of course, they were asking about foreign interference. Sorry, that was the Green Party. Of course, Green Party was because she's lunatic. But, stop clock is still right twice a time, but not in this case here. She was asking about foreign interference in regards to Alberta independence separatist movements. Oh, yeah. Oh, those crafty Americans, are we going to look into foreign interference and trying to destroy the country, blah, blah, blah. Then, of course, but the response by McKinnon was a little ominous in what he said and didn't say because of his all-encompassing answer. And of course, we know they've already used violence to suppress peaceful protest in Canada. So be not surprised if they do it again. And I guess that's it. That's all they talked about today. Well, join us tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. for Blazing Cat Fruit Fridays. And then once again at 10:30, where we will start up again with the no answer period with no pre-show, not enough time between the early broadcast and then this one, where we will head into a review once again of the far left evil that has beset our land before we get into the last question period of the week, which starts earlier on Fridays. And of course, don't be surprised if the House tomorrow looks far more empty than this because they typically are pretty empty on Fridays. But who knows? They might surprise us, seeing as they didn't sit on Wednesday. And maybe they'll actually show up on Friday, but I doubt it. Most of them are usually traveling. We pay them a lot of money. It'd be nice if they could just show up and perform for us on the allotted time and not have us stare at empty seats for all the tax money that we pay them. All right, well, on our way out, if I can get this done properly, we will go out with the intro. And we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you, friends. Please like, share, subscribe. It helps to drive more viewership for the channel. Bye-bye.
Believing the Liberals are helping Canadians is as ridiculous as believing the budget will balance itself.
Move on, man. Move on.
With our historic policy.
Over 2 million people a month to the food banks. I guess they should just move on from there.
If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth.
Speech yesterday from the Prime Minister really freaked these Conservatives out because they saw the ambition in that speech. And not only did they see it in that speech today, as the Prime Minister stood with the Premier investing in new nuclear to ensure the jobs of today and the future, they know that the youth...
The only thing that's revolting are those answers.
Speaker, we will take no lessons from these Conservatives. Trust me on that.
The Minister didn't write the Prime Minister's speech yesterday because it wouldn't have bored and depressed to tears.
It's really hard to follow, isn't it, Mr. Speaker?
All of those poor students stuck in that room. There he spoke about how they would have to sacrifice more and that it would take time to reverse all of the misery that has built up over the last 10 years. Mr. Speaker, young people want to have homes. They want to have jobs. They want to have hope. They want a budget that is affordable so they can have a life that is affordable. Will the Prime Minister introduce that budget so that Canadians can restore the promise of their country?
And we decide what comes next.
No, that this government has their back and we will continue to do this. There's going to be a powerful statement for the young people of Canada.
Deficits are driving inflation. The more Liberals spend, the more it costs Canadians at the grocery store. 25% of Canadians are using food banks because they can't afford to eat. So when will the Prime Minister finally get his inflationary deficits under control so Canadians can put food on the table?
Mr. Speaker, Conservative members pretend to care about food insecurity, but then they call feeding children garbage.
Mr. Speaker, what's garbage was that answer?
Did the Prime Minister see the ad before it went out?
Hey, of course there are too many people living in poverty in Canada, but there are significant initiatives being put in place by this government.
Being serious means being honest and tough.
Mr. Speaker, the grand reveal has been made.
Canada's economy is in fact growing, Mr. Speaker.
Move on, man, move on.
Sets us up well for the new world order.
I have a simple answer. Move on, man. Move on, you know. That's, honestly, change the cubic card. I can give you so much.
Liberals keep telling Canadians that they've never had it so good. Well, not only has food inflation doubled since this Prime Minister took office, it's now twice as high in Canada as it is in the United States. It's driving over 2 million people a month to the food banks. I guess they should just move on from that.
I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.